Hey, yo, in this episode of the Carolina Chuck podcast, I'm going to talk to the CEO of Innovative Attraction Management, Mr. James Harhi. His company just purchased one of the staples of the North Country and the Old Forge region, Enchanted Forest Water Safari. We're going to talk about his qualifications to take on such a task, like his humble beginnings as a lifeguard at Disney through a whole career in aquatic amusement there, and how he got into business, which led him to live his dream in managing water parks. He's going to tell us about his plans for the future for Water Safari while keeping the sentimental value intact. So thanks for listening. Enjoy my guest, Mr. James Harhi. Y'all be good. Peace out. So you're flying back tomorrow?
I'm actually going to fly back Monday now.
Because of the weather?
Well, originally I was thinking about flying back tonight, and then the weather just got so bad today. But the temperature actually looks pretty good tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow looks to be a really pretty day, so we're expecting to be busy. So I'll hang out at the park. Sunday, Monday are still kind of hit or miss right now. But if it was going to be bad weather all weekend, I was going to go home because there's not much reason for me to hang out when there's 500 people or 1,000 people in the park.
Right.
It's like.
So where are you from?
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando. Nice. I was doing as much cramming about you before I came in today. I knew it was Florida somewhere.
Yep, Orlando. I live about 1 mile direct line from the Magic Kingdom Castle.
Wow.
So fireworks every night at the house.
That's gotta be the best. That sounds like either the best or the worst thing.
It's great. Honestly, it's great because we're on the other side. There's not really any traffic on that side, but you hear the train horn in the morning. You hear fireworks at night. You know, the Magic Kingdom train comes out. You hear the train.
The occasional bus that comes by. Welcome to the Magic.
When they have a party, though, it gets a little crazy because we can hear the parties.
Wow.
At night.
When I moved up here, I've never driven in snow. I was super anxiety about the snow, right? I came up here and I looked at this apartment that we were going to rent. I was living out kind of in the boonies, before I came up here. And the place was sandwiched in between two other buildings. I was like, man, I don't think I could do that, the middle apartment. So we ended up staying on my father-in-law's in his living room. I slept on an air mattress for about a month. And I finally found this place right next to the fire department. I said, if they're going to plow one place, it's going to be next to the fire department. But this morning, I'm starting to get sick of that place because I woke up with the sirens, and I think I was running. I was already in motion, getting out of my bed in a panic. Like, what is all that? Yeah. But it's pretty cool. I mean, now that I've driven in the snow a little bit, it's kind of cool.
I've never, the first time, I can't remember, was it April we were down here? We went to Cisco. Oh, yeah. And I got the scraper out, I scraped the snow off, and then I start driving, and I hit a brakes in Rome somewhere, and all the snow off the top of the car came flying off. And they're like, you're not supposed to do that. That's against the law. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know that?
Yeah. Like,
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, there's so much that I'm still. I mean, that's what this whole show is. I'm trying to figure out what the heck's going on around here.
Just trying to find out what's happening.
What's happening? They're experimenting with names. They said, let's call it Chuck Around and Find Out. And I was like, I said, I don't think so.
That's actually pretty unique. I like that one.
Yeah, but then I was like, there's a lot of people that like Carolina Chuck on the PC level, kids and sweet old ladies.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I said, let's
Chuck Around and Find Out.
And then I figured the way I answer the phone or talk to people, I'm like, hey, what's happening? I say it a lot, so I think I can make that kind of brand it that way, make it a saying at least. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started with one camera right here. Yeah. Because I was doing it by myself, and I was like, oh man, I went home and trying to edit this thing. I'm like, I don't know about this, And then, I tried to, but then I'm trying to line them up, and I realized it was just too much. And this guy's great. He's really been a game changer.
This is the only one. I did have one other podcast interview, and it was a Zoom.
Yeah, I watched that.
That was pretty simple.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, but that was a simple
It was
camera.
it was a business one.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
focused mainly on that.
Yep.
Well, anyways, welcome to the North Country.
Thank you.
So, how many times have you been up here?
We're probably getting to about 7 or 8 now.
Yeah.
7 or 8, maybe getting close to 10, maybe possibly.
And so you just purchased the Water Safari Park, correct?
Yep, back on March 1st.
And how did you discover that? I mean, what made you jump on that deal right there?
You know, we were in an acquisition. We were looking to buy our first water park, a bank I knew called me and said, "Hey, I've got something that you might be interested in." And I said, "Sure." And honestly, I'd never heard of Enchanted Forest before that, or even Old Forge, to be honest.
Yeah.
Never heard it, never been there. And they said, "Well, let's go up and take a look at it." We came in last September, right around Labor Day, and took a quick peek at it, did a walk of the park, met the family, and we really fell in love with it during that visit. And then we're able to knock out a deal in the fall and the winter and got it figured out.
That's awesome. I have heard a lot about Old Forge and Water Safari since I've been up here, and have not managed to get over there. And it seems, and I see pictures, but today when I was talking about meeting you, you know, people were telling me about how they would go there when they were kids and all this. So, and what is your background in? I know you worked for Disney, correct?
Yep. I went to, I was born and raised in Florida native, and then grew up in a town called Fort Pierce, Florida, on the East Coast on the beach, and then went to Orlando to go to school, UCF, and then we decided, I was graduating from UCF, decided to get my senior year job as a lifeguard at Disney. So I was a lifeguard at Contemporary Hotel, and we did that and fell in love with aquatics. Loved that. Worked up myself up within Disney. Worked at Blizzard Beach, one of their big water parks there. Got into management, and then fell in love with recreation, water parks, amusement. I really fell in love with the concept of just going to work and having fun.
Yeah.
That's the part. Like, you know, I tell people, you wake up in the morning. If you don't like what you're doing, get another job.
Yeah.
You know, I go in every single day. People are smiling, having the time of their life, making memories. And I think that resonates with the vision and the mission of Water Safari.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really interesting story from starting from being a lifeguard. You've worked your way through all levels of the water park. That's neat. And you did something with arcade and games and stuff like that?
Yeah, no. So I got to a point at Disney, and we had just had 9/11 had just happened, and we were doing a reduction in staff. My job wasn't up. You know, I wasn't concerned about losing my job, but it kind of flattened out the management. You know, we lost a lot of middle management positions. My next jump in the management world had kind of gone away. Those positions, they kind of got rid of them as they did a layoff. And I looked at it and said, you know what? I'm not a corporate guy.
Yeah.
One thing I hated about Disney was I loved so much of it, but the one thing I hated is that if you wanted to do anything, I had to go to 10 VPs, get sign off on everything. It was all meetings and tape, and I want to move fast. And so a buddy of mine called and said, "Hey, my parents want to sell a manufacturing company in Melbourne. Do you have any interest in buying it?"
Yeah.
And I'd never built anything in my life other than, with your hands as a kid and with your parents, but I never really built anything before. And I said, "Sure, I'll go take a look at it." Next thing you know, I quit Disney. I go move to Melbourne, and I take over a shop of 12 people, and they're making electronics for the military. And like I said, never soldered anything in my life really. Yeah. And we just started making electronics, and I took it from a little mom and pop. And next thing you know, we were doing well, and our customers were giving us more business. We were winning awards as Small Business of the Year.
Wow.
And then Disney called me like a year or two later and said, "Hey, we really miss you. Can you come back and fix the arcade games for us? We need a vendor to come fix arcade games." And that was about 20 years ago. So I said, I can bid on it. And they said, "Okay, come bid on it." I bid on it. We won the contract, had it for 20 plus years. So every time you go play an arcade game at Disney, one of my employees is there behind the scenes, making sure it works, fixing it. and everything else. So all the Disney resorts, we maintain all those games as well.
So that's from the company that you purchased.
Yeah, when I started the manufacturing company.
What's the name of it?
That was Amertron.
Okay.
And then we ended up, ended up selling Amertron to another company about 5 years later.
Okay.
And I kept JFH Technologies, which is the arcade company.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
JFH is my initials. I'm not very creative, so I just, they said, hey, they said
You're gonna name something,
come
name
with
it
a
after
company
you,
name. I
okay.
said JFH Technologies. There you go.
Sounds cool. Yeah.
It works. And so I just changed it to JFH Tech. I sold the name Amertron to the other company. And so we started that. And part of the deal was I really like working with Disney. So I said, you can't have that part of the business, but you can have all the military stuff. So we had gone from, 12 people, about $1 million in revenue. And when 5 years later, we were doing about $4 million in revenue, about 50 employees. So they were happy to buy it. So they bought it from us. And then I was kind of semi-retired.
Mm-hmm.
I had some money. I had the arcade company. I moved back to Orlando, had my second child. And I stayed at home for the most part, went to Disney 2 or 3 days a week to do some meetings and make sure the guys are fixing the games. And that was it. And I was about retired for about a year.
Wow. So you decided to? Did you start another business? What business purchased?
So what happened was one of the guys I worked with at Disney, I had all of my last job at Disney. I had all the dry stuff and recreation. So everything on the east coast of Florida, cruise line, vacation club, world. If it was dry recreation, which was like coin op, contracts, penny presses, I knew every single penny press. If you bought a penny in the late 90s, 2000s, I'm the one that picked the design that went on that penny press.
Really?
At that point for Disney. Cool. And then, I had a counterpart in my team, Mike Friscia. He was the aquatics person. So he had boats and lifeguards.
Okay.
So we kind of split the whole thing in half and we just made it simple. I had dry, he had wet. So Mike had gone and worked. He actually moved up to, he had left Disney right after I did. Mm-hmm. And he went to go work for Palace Entertainment at the time. He ran Splish Splash out in New York and Long Island. And then they were a big water park company. So he left to go work for them. And then he had kind of, he'd gotten promoted, changed jobs, didn't work for different companies. And he was working for Palace, but they had him living in Huntington Beach in California. And expensive part of the world.
Yeah.
But his family still lived in Orlando. So he would commute. And now he had to go to, he had 13 water parks around the country. So he spent a lot of time on the plane. And they said, okay, you know what? He really wanted to get out of Huntington and stop having to have two houses, one in California, one in a house in Orlando. So he approached me and said, hey, let's start a management consulting company to do water parks. And I said, sure. Let's do it. I've been retired for a year. I've been retired. I loved aquatics. Yeah. I'm ready to go back. And so we started IAM at the time, Innovative Attraction Management, name he came up with. And it's been really interesting because we've been partners now. We worked together at Disney, and then we've been together, and people always kind of joke because we don't fight. We get along great.
Okay.
It's just the simplest thing in the world. We just attack stuff and go for it. And we've been doing that for 12, 15 years now.
So how many water parks do you own?
This is the first one we own.
This is the first one.
So we've managed a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's what I managed.
Yeah. So, that was kind of our vision, was that we always wanted to buy our first park.
Okay.
And we had to figure out how to do that. I've managed parks in Daytona Beach, Florida, Savannah, Myrtle Beach, Dallas, Waco, Las Vegas. We've been all over Trinidad, Bahamas, Punta Cana. We've been all over the place, but this was our first opportunity to buy our first park.
I just want to say that is probably the coolest job that I've heard so far. You literally get to do your passion and get to travel everywhere that's cool. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
You get to go to different water parks. And
yeah.
I'm going to water park today.
Yeah.
And I'm getting up there, but at the same time, I ride every single slide.
Yeah.
I was just on Royal Caribbean is one of my big customers.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So they just released Utopia of the Seas, brand new part, brand new ship.
Yeah.
They released it, and I'm I'm out there with one of the first guys riding all the water slides and saying, okay, this works, that doesn't work, talking to the manufacturer about it, and then telling, Royal Caribbean, like, hey, this is what we like, what we don't like, as they kind of build their next ship so they understand what's a good water slide and what's a bad water slide.
Wow. So I've got
constitutes a good and a bad.
right.
Well, there's a couple things. One, throughput's a very important thing, and people really don't understand throughput. Throughput is how many people can go on at a time. And when you get in the attraction world, throughput's a huge metric as you pick rides and attractions, because that has to do with how long you got to wait in line.
Okay. Yes.
So if I can get one person down every 10 seconds, if I have a true efficiency, I can get 6 people down a minute, which means 360 people an hour, and you do all the math and you start doing all the math and all that stuff in school they told you never use.
Yeah.
This is where you use it.
Okay.
And you use it on a water slide. And so what we do, throughput's a huge piece of it, because you can have the greatest water slide in the world, but if only so many people can ride it, it's useless, because people are going to be upset that they got to wait in line for an hour. They want stuff that goes fast and goes into that point. And then safety is a big part of it. How people go through, is the ride path we call consistent. The hardest thing about water slides versus like a roller coaster, and roller coaster, I know exactly, I can take an engineer and they can tell you exactly where you're going to be in every single point, exactly what time you're going to be there, and they know exactly what goes on the whole entire roller coaster.
Okay.
Water slide, it's a different experience. You ride the water slide, you're going to ride different than I'm going to ride it.
Right.
And then my daughter is going to have a completely different experience as well. She's not going to get as high on that wall. She's not going to go as fast because her weight's not there.
Wow.
But you got to find a way to be able to have a great experience for that kid at the smallest kid at the range, and then the biggest guy at the range, and have a good experience for both of them. So ride path is really important, consistency of the ride path, so people don't get hurt, they don't flip, those type of things. And then just, you want to have a good mix of thrill versus people who aren't really looking for the thrill.
Right.
And so you gotta mix up your product as well on that part. You can't just have insane water slides, just all insane, because there's going to be people who are like, you know what?
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I don't want to do that. Yeah. Let me ask you, I don't know if you want to say, what is your favorite water slide out there?
It's really simple. It's really silly, but it's definitely my top 3 is there's a water slide on Navigator of the Seas on Royal Caribbean that is a mat racer. And it's just the simplest slide in the world. Mm-hmm. It's fast. It's a 6-second slide, 7-second slide. You're in and out, but you go over the side of the ship. It's translucent, so you can see you're over the side of the ship, and then you come out super fast.
Yeah.
I mean, just as fast as you could possibly go on a mat racer head first. That's great. I really did, Cascade Falls at Water Safari is a great ride. If you get down there, you got to get there. I need to get my guys to make sure they keep putting 2 people at the top. Mm-hmm. That's been a challenge this year, but we're going to fix that. And Cascade Falls is a pretty fun ride there. And then I want to just put in Punta Cana as a 4-person bull ride where you put 4 people in it and you kind of go down this really fast thing, and then you go into a bowl and then come out the bottom. It's a pretty intense ride. You wouldn't expect it, but it's a pretty intense ride.
Wow. So y'all have been you've been fully in control of Water Safari this summer.
Yeah, we took over in March. I mean, Kelly and Katie, who are the 2 previous owners, are both with us right now.
Yeah.
So they're actively involved. Like today, we had one of the jokes I had when we first talked about buying Water Safari was, well, I never really thought I'd buy a water park in New York, but the great news is I don't have to worry about hurricanes anymore.
Right.
And God forbid, it's all my fault.
And here it is. And
here we are. We're closed because of a tropical depression. Yeah. We had to close today. Yeah. And, I went, as we were kind of making the decision, do we open, do we not close, do we close? The weather forecast just looks sick. There's possible flooding around here and everything else. And we were like, you know what, I think it's just the right decision to close it. But I went to the 2 previous owners who are with us still on the team, and I said, hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
You know the customer better than I do. What's the right call here? Because I'll defer to them. I'm not like a totalitarian. I'm like, I don't have to make every decision.
Right,
I want people to give me feedback. And they were like, hey, we've closed in the past. We don't think it's going to be a good day. it's not going to be, we don't know how many employees are going to show up because of the weather problems, flooding, et cetera, because we've had tornadoes this year in Rome. We've had all kinds of problems in that region with flooding, and we had flooding in one of the towns where a lot of our employees are earlier this year. Yeah, Loudville. We had flooding up there that impacted some of our employees. It's just been and we said, you know what, it's just not worth it. And then on top of that, if you're a lifeguard or you're an employee, yes, the handful of guests that would have shown up today would have had a great time because there would have been any lines. They're already wet. I get it, but I've got to keep my lifeguard staff and my staff together for another 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And if I said, okay, now go sit out in the rain all day,
right,
and do that, I probably would have had 3 or 4 people quit today. That's the honest answer.
Yeah.
They would have been like, you know what, this sucks. This isn't the fun that I signed up for.
Right. Yeah. And that's a pretty cool theme right there.
Yeah.
You're more concerned with the fun, which is probably refreshing.
Yeah.
So I talked to a few people before I came up here, and they were talking about how there's a lot of sentimental value with the water parks and theme parks in general. Like I was saying, I've never been to Water Safari. Hopefully in the next week or two, I'll get down there because, every time I talk to somebody, I try to experience the whole thing anyways. But there's a lot of sentimental stuff that's going on. So they're concerned with changes and anything like that coming up. Is there anything that you know of that is going to be a major change?
Not. There's really no plans for change. I mean, we did not buy, and it was really funny because our website kind of talks about turnaround projects and stuff like that. That's something we're known for in the industry.
Right.
Is that when somebody's having a hard time, they call myself or Mike and they say, hey, you know what? I've got a park that's in trouble or it's not doing well. I need to turn it around. And we would come in and do that. But the reason we wanted to buy something was that's a hard 3 years of work. And then we did it, and then they would sell it, and they'd say, thank you. And we'd be like, okay, where are we going to work next year? Because our park just went away.
Right.
But, it was interesting as we started talking about this park, and I started talking, some people found out about it, and all of them told me, like, I've been there as a kid. I can't wait to bring my kids.
Yes.
That is such a common theme in it that our goal is to just improve it.
Yes.
And not really change it. I know that that's scary for some people when you say, I'm going to improve it, but not change it. How's that different? But there really is a difference. They're not, one of my one of the ideas I had this year was the Enchanted Family of the Day.
Okay.
Just because I talked to a ton of people, listened to them and everything else. And I said, you know what? This park is so much about that family history, the experience and everything else. I said, you know what? Let's do a free cabana to one family every single day. We're giving away a free cabana. And we sell out of cabanas every single day. So to give away a free cabana, I mean, we could sell the cabana if we really wanted to.
Right, yeah.
We'd make money. Would have made decent money over 90 days. But I said, you know what? I want to hear the stories.
Yes.
So we had a contest. People were able to write in, talk about their story, about their history, and everything else. And we picked a family every single day this year who came in, that generational family that was coming back to re-experience the park with their kids, their grandkids, and they became our family of the day. And we wanted to pay homage to the history of the park and that emotional attachment to it.
Well, that's an excellent answer because I told you just a few minutes ago. I heard that there were y'all were buying it a few months ago, and I have a similar thing that I actually joined a Facebook group to figure out what was going on with Carowinds when I heard Six Flags buying. I'm like, man, because people have gone there. I've gone there since I was a little boy, all through my teenage years, and there's just a lot of experiences. I mean, honestly, there can't be too much but good, especially with a guy who came up with a passion for water parks and stuff like yourself. A lifeguard has done all this. I mean, you got the right people in there. I mean, to especially make a fun park.
Yeah, and even when we bought it, Kathy Dunlap, who's our park president, we brought in because Kelly will retire at the end of the season. She's been at the park since she was, a teenager. She's been working there, the whole family, at that point. So she plans to retire. So we brought in Kathy, and it was funny. I'd posted a video or like a Facebook thing, like, "Hey, I'm heading home from Syracuse," And immediately she texts me, why are you in my hometown? Why are you in my area? And I'm like, oh, I really can't tell you why I'm here. And she goes, are you at Water Safari? And I go, well, we can't, we'll have can't really talk about it. But, I said, would you ever have any interest in going back up there? You've been with Disney for 30 years. And would you have any interest in going back up there? She goes, I'd love to go back home. And she told me stories about, that was her first water park, theme park that she ever been to. And it just was the perfect fit. It was almost destiny in the sense of you know what, this is somebody that I trust to come up here, move back home, be close to her family, and understands the connection to it, understands the area. And, if I wanted, if we didn't really have an appreciation for that, I could have just hired anybody and sent them up here and said, you know what, just run this like any other park in the world. We really were, we really wanted to have the right response to it. And that's why we were really excited to have Kathy come up here.
That's great. I mean, I'm pretty happy to have you up here in charge of it. I mean, this guy, I've never been on a Royal Caribbean cruise. I've been on a couple of Carnival cruises, right?
Yeah, Carnival's good. They're a client of ours as well.
And
Carnival's a client.
Really?
Yeah.
I've been on some Carnival slides,
Yep.
I've probably been on something you had out there. When's the last time I was on a water slide? I don't think it was, I think it was in a hotel or something not so long ago. But, so what are the plans for the off season? Because the season is a little bit shorter up here.
We're praying for snow just about like everybody else up here. We the last 2 years have been kind of quiet when it comes to snow. We're hoping we'll get some snow. I've never been on a snowmobile.
Me either.
So I am dying. I'm dying that we will have some snow in Old Forge this year, and I'll be able to get on my first snowmobile and experience that. I'm very excited about that potential. We have, and it might upset some people, but we're going to replace the Ferris wheel this year. It's time.
Yeah.
There's a couple rides back there in the back that, they have an emotional attachment to it. They've probably been on that Ferris wheel's probably been there for 30 or 40 years, but it's just time for it to go.
Yeah.
So we'll bring in a new attraction next year. That will probably be really the only other change in the water park.
Okay.
Is that, and we're hopefully going to fix Amazon. We had one ride that a pipe, these things happen when these rides are old. It burst, and we weren't able to fix it this year. So where the break is, we have to break up all the concrete, and we just couldn't do it while the park's open. But we'll get that fixed and maybe put a conveyor in. I look at a lot of the comments, and people really want us to have a conveyor to bring that big. It's a big family raft ride, like an 8-foot tube.
Yeah. And
they have to now lug it up the walkway. And when you build a water park in the mountains, there aren't really simple walkways. So I hear the guests, and I'm like, you know what? This isn't that hard to put a conveyor in. So we're going to look at that as a possible enhancement for this off season to fix that ride and get maybe a conveyor in so people could just go right on, jump on the tube, and go down the ride.
Can you talk about what you're going to replace the Ferris wheel with?
I don't know yet. There's a big show in November called IAPA. It's in Orlando. It's always in Orlando now, but it's the International Amusement and Water Park Show.
What a freaking cool job you got.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It is the coolest show in the world. It takes up the entire Orlando Convention Center, and it is nothing but rides, water slides, theme park rides, inflatables, all the Dippin' Dot arcade games. Every brand new arcade game that's coming out that year is there. Free Dippin' Dots, which people love. So it's a fun show to go to. It's a week before Thanksgiving, and what we usually do is kind of go there and see what's available. That's when all the major ride manufacturers will be there, and we'll find the right ride to replace that with.
So are they presenting them on little, digitally or something? Or
no, there's actual rides there.
Really?
Yeah. No, you go inside the convention center and you can ride the newest. Ride. They won't have they'll have the roller coaster seats, and then they do some of the dark ride stuff where you go in a ride, like an enclosed ride. They'll do some dark ride concepts that they're working on that you can test and experience those. But it's a very cool show.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And look, I was just going to go back to the snowmobile thing. Those things go fast.
That's what I hear.
And 2 years ago. I experienced here 61 inches of snow in 24 hours. right? I was like, holy moly! The police were patrolling on snowmobiles, and I thought that was a blizzard. No, that wasn't a blizzard.
That was a Tuesday.
A month later, during Christmas, we faced an actual blizzard. It was the craziest thing. There's some wild snow up here, but to me, it's still an adventure. You know, I've never really experienced anything like that, but it's still an adventure. But man, you have got the coolest job. You really do, and I'm glad to have you. I'm glad you came in. And
I got a question for you.
what do you got?
Yeah.
So you've gone from working in Disney World, having cruises for clients. What's it like coming to Old Forge and owning this water park?
You know, I'll be honest, it's personal because we have an investment into it. That's probably the biggest difference. And I think for me, it's still the same thing. Like I come in, I want to have fun. You know, I go in, I talk to the employees. You know, I want them to have fun. I mean, we did a huge change to our social media this year, which has been pretty well received. And, you know, we want, you know, and I told the whole concept is one, I'm almost 50. I'm not, you know, social media, I understand it, but I'm definitely don't understand what the greatest TikTok trend is or what's going on here at that point. So I told the guys, just have fun with it, you know, and you can see that if you watch our social, and we've got a lot of compliments on it. Our team does a really good job of trying to instill that fun. And we involve the employees in it. We involve some guests in it. We do a lot of fun things at that point. I think I tell my employees, if you're not having fun, go find another job. Right. That's the honest answer. One of my Jamesisms that I have for people is like
Jamesism.
Yeah, you got to have I said, there's two things you got to have in life. You got to enjoy your job and you got to have a good mattress because that's where you spend a lot of your time. I said, as much as I love my kids, but to be honest, I see my work people a lot more than I see my kids. When I get home at 5 o'clock, even when I work at home, by the time the kids get out of school, get out of their activities, et cetera, we have dinner together. And I might see them on the weekends if they haven't had plans with their friends or have another sporting event or something like that. I get to see them maybe 10, 15 hours a week, maybe 20 in a really good week.
Oh, man.
And that's the honest answer. And I said, so you spend more time sleeping and you spend more time at work. Mm-hmm. So make sure you enjoy the people you work with and make sure you have a good mattress. And that is one of the keys to a happy life. You know, and I just think that's a big piece of it. And if you're not enjoying it, and then you know what, find something you really enjoy to do to work. It's not that important. Just if you're not having fun, you're not enjoying your job, find another job. It's not that hard.
That's going to be one of the little promos that we pull out for Eric. He's like, hey man, if you get a good 1 minute thing, we'll share it on our social media.
Go on our side.
Yeah.
We'll see that on our side.
Yeah.
So, what do you have plans for maybe the next 5 to 7 years with the park? I mean, any long-term plans? I know you're a smart guy.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we'd like to do is we'd like to put some more affordable housing in for our employees. So
Housing.
Yeah. I mean, the hard part for Old Forge, and the biggest difference between Old Forge and like any other park I've ever managed before in my life or done anything with is that there are like 25 kids in the town senior class. That's, okay. And every other park I've gone to, there's, 2,000 seniors within a stone throw of the park. Mm-hmm. So, and then even for our employees, it's very, they have to drive 30, 45-minute commutes to get there because that's where the closest affordable housing is. So we have a lot of land, and we would like to look at, developing some of it for employee housing.
Really?
That we can get the best talent and retain the best talent in that market and make sure that they can live, they're happy, and that they can not have to spend half their life driving in a car, especially with the weather around here sometimes. Yeah. We want to make them, have a better quality of life.
Accommodate them. James, that's huge. That's huge. Have you ever thought about manufacturing your own park?
My daughter asked me one time, what do you do for a living? Just trying to explain, like, You can't just say ride water slides, right?
Right.
And I go back.
Yeah.
It sounds cool on paper, but the other kids may look at her like, what? If somebody wants to build a water park, Mike and I are one of 5 people in the world you get a call.
Right.
So if you want to build a brand new water park, there's about 5 of us that you call. And so we're part of that select group of people that are trusted to say they do that. I think right now we plan on buying more parks. We have the financing ready to go, but we plan on buying more parks. I don't know where they're going to be or what they'll. I didn't have Enchanted Forest on a
radar,
5-year my 5-year vision board. It wasn't on there, but we'll go where if there's a quality park out there, we're going to try to acquire it and grow the team, and it'll also give our employees at Old Forge more opportunities as well.
Yeah,
that if they want to leave or they want, we can develop potentially director positions, vice president positions for them, that they might have multi-park responsibilities. There's all these potential for them to grow with us if that's what they have in their career goals.
Wow. So you're not. I'm talking about basically building one from scratch.
We've done that. I've done that a few times.
Really?
Not for myself,
for
but
your
for other people.
For your personal self.
The hard part is the construction costs are so expensive right now.
Yeah.
That to build a water park, to be honest, you're probably talking $70 to $100 million.
Lord.
So, and there's places I would love to build them. There's some markets that are underserved in our opinion. But the hard part, at least with the capital environment right now, it's a risky venture to go out and say, hey, I'm gonna put up $100 million, trusting that that's going to happen. There's the acquisition model where you buy existing businesses that are cash flowing well.
Yeah,
that's a much easier model for people to get behind and understand.
Yeah.
So that's probably a bigger growth area. Now, as we grow the demand of Water Safari and more people buy into our vision and everything else, and we have a need for more attractions, we'll be putting in more attractions. We'll add more slides, more hard rides, things like that for people to do. There is land to do that without taking anything out or destroying any of the history. But that we have to get to a point where we need it. We think that we will get there. We have a good capital reserve. We put in we have an FEC there, Family Entertainment Center, Calypso Cove in the front of the park. And one of the things when I did my walkthrough, it just felt very dated and it wasn't where we needed it to be. So we decided we put in a ropes course there, a 2-level ropes course with a zip line, because they kind of had these old batting cages there that didn't work half the time, and it just wasn't great. It wasn't a great guest experience. So we put in we spent a lot of money, put a ropes course in, a brand new ropes course in there. So we'll continue to look at how we expand that product, but we're also going to listen to the consumer and find out what they want. I talk to the employees all the time, like, hey, every time I go up to food and beverage stand, what's selling, what's not selling?
Right.
What do people want? What do they not want? What are they complaining about? What do they complain to you about? I want to know, because we're going to fix it. And the same thing when it comes to rides, like the conveyor at Amazon. We hear that. We hear you. We're going to, if we can solve it, we're going to solve it.
That's great. All right, James, I think that's about it. Is there anything else you wanted to get out?
My only other comment would be, if anything anybody learned today, is that, it's funny because the common theme or comment in social and even in town and different things like that is that, this big corporation in Florida bought Water Safari and they're going to ruin it, And I told Kathy when we set up the interview is that I wish, I really want people to understand it's not this big corporation. We do well for ourselves, but it's literally Mike and I make all the decisions, and we make them with the input of our employees. We don't go top down. We usually go up. Our decision process is bottom up. We want to hear what's going on, but this isn't some crazy corporation that's come in and is going to, from Florida, that's going to destroy the park.
Yeah.
And if anything, I hope anybody that listened today kind of understands kind of our vision, a little bit about us, and understands that, hey, we're just water park people. I want to ride water slides. I want to have a good time. I'm in the park and I'm working the bar. I'm throwing pizzas in the oven. I'm, serving. My employees love to take pictures of me, Like I'm breaking, somebody needed to go and break for Dippin' Dots. I'm like, I'll go do Dippin' Dots. I'll serve Dippin' Dots.
Your hands on.
Yeah, let's go. I'll serve Dippin' Dots. You need a break. I'll do drinks in the bar. And I was in the bar one time and the guy's like, hey, aren't you the owner?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm one. Yeah. I said, yeah. And he goes, what are you doing working the bar? I go, the girl needed a break. So let's go. And he goes, and it was just, and he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I'm like, but that's who we are. That's our culture.
Yeah.
We're not this crazy corporate group that, is from Florida that's just going to come in and ruin anything.
I think they hinted to us like, oh, this guy was involved with Disney, so they felt like Disney had came up here or something like that.
I am the most anti-corporate guy you could probably meet.
Right.
I am just small business, get it done mentality. I want to make decisions. An example of that would be the other day, like yesterday, we're sitting there and I changed the menu a lot when we got to the park, and because I heard some feedback that people were complaining about the pricing and about the food quality. Mm-hmm. So this is another. You would love this job.
Okay.
So we went up to Cisco and Renzi in town. They're the two big food suppliers, and I make them bring all the chicken tenders they sell, and they cook them all. And we go in this room, and I make everybody eat the chicken tenders, and then we pick the chicken tender we like, and then we do the same thing with burger. We go through the whole entire menu. And we just spend a whole day, and all we do is taste every single item. And the chicken tender last year was horrible. It was bad. So I said, you know what? We're going to change the chicken tender. So we went with a different chicken tender this year, and it was much improved. But that's the kind. But I brought the food and beverage manager. Kathy was there. I was there. We brought a bunch of people down, and we just sit in the room. And you walk out of there, and you don't want to eat for like 3 days when you're done, because you do French fries, you do chicken tenders, pizza. Everything. You go through the whole menu, and they bring out 4 or 5, 6 different options, and you say, okay, that one works. 6 hot dogs. Which hot dog do you want to sell? And we go through the whole thing, and we try to really improve the menu. And but then, like, I brought my family up a couple weeks ago, so I wanted them to experience the park. So I brought myself, my daughter, my mother. They all came up. They stayed. I had all the kids and the grandparents stay at the campground, and all my brothers and sisters, we stayed at the hotel at Water's Edge. Mm-hmm. And we went through, and the chicken tenders we got some that were burnt, and it just really irritated me because I put so much effort in this chicken tender, and they were burning them. And but the park is just old, and they were just used to making chicken tenders the same way they made them. Yeah, they didn't have. If you ever see McDonald's and you see like they have the timer and the thing, you hit the button and it tells you, okay, cook the fries for 4 minutes because that's exactly where it needs to be. Yeah, they had no timers. Yeah. So I got out of there, and I'm like, I called Kathy. I'm like, I'm buying you timers. We're going to put freaking timers on those fryers because I'm tired of burnt chicken tenders or burnt French fries. We're done with it. So we put timers in, and when I came back this week, chicken tenders look perfect. They're back. They're the right temperature. They're using the timers. The employees actually like it because now they're not messing up or throwing food away or having people complain about I overcooked it, undercooked it, et cetera. But it's just those simple type of things that we do that – I don't want to serve that to a guest and say, like, you know what? I put all this effort into picking the right chicken tender, and we're overcooking it.
That's epic. That's important there.
But,
I like that.
So my pitch is like, hey, we just want to make the park better, and it doesn't. I always tell people, if you don't improve today, you're going to be gone tomorrow. That's a company motto I've had since the very first time took my first company over. If you don't improve today, you're going to be gone tomorrow. There's no such thing as you figured it out. Yeah. If you don't find a way to just get a little bit better today, somebody's going to find it. Somebody's going to pass you, and you're going to lose your business. You're going to lose your customer. So every single day, can we just get a little bit better, figure something out, and it'll work out. Your customers will appreciate it. Your employees buy into it. They'll be happy because if nobody's yelling at them, they have a great day. But if they make bad chicken tenders, people are going to yell at them. They're going to read the comments on Facebook. Yeah. They're going to cry at home that they made bad chicken tenders, and it's going to make them cry. And I don't want them to cry. I want everybody to just have a good time, come enjoy the park, and and make great. Hopefully in those lifeguards, that guy cooking the chicken tenders, the retail hostess, some 15, 16-year-old out there. Hopefully in 30 years, maybe they'll buy Water Safari from me.
Wow. Epic. Great ending.
All right, man.
All right, we can hang out for a second. He's going to grab a couple pictures and